Hello, and welcome back to the Pulse with Willie and Al. We are rocking out our episode 13. It was all a dream episode. How you doing today, Al?
Oh man, Willie, just living the dream, dude. Another beautiful day here in New Hampshire. We are recording. Today is Wednesday. People will be watching this on a Friday, but yeah, it's all good, man. It's
Yeah,
all good.
definitely is. It's about it's nighttime here. The sun just set, so I guess it's dusk maybe. But yeah,
Hmm.
it definitely was a great day. And man, this is, I gotta admit, the best part of my day, being able to get in and do this, besides seeing my wife, right? But
Hmm.
best part of my day, coming in and being able to chat some football, chat some baseball with you and stuff. So
Yeah. Big
um,
shout out to Merve. Big
yeah,
shout out.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
she'll appreciate it. So,
yeah.
well, let's jump in here. We got some big news at the top here in the NFL. But before we get into it, want to let you guys know that are watching. Make sure you go and smash that subscribe button, like the video. It definitely helps us out. Let us know what we're doing well, what we could be doing better. All right, thanks a lot for that. Jumping into the NFL here, we've got J.C. Jackson getting shipped back to New England. Very interesting. This trade just came through today. It seems like New England got the better part of this trade, but what are your thoughts on this, Al?
First of all, this is the most Patriots move ever. Letting a guy sign for big money somewhere else and then trading back for him once he's shown that he's garbage outside of New England.
Yeah.
Also, the fact that they convinced San Diego, I'm sorry, the Charger, Los Angeles, 'cause I still think they play in San Diego. The fact that they convinced the Chargers to pay most of his salary as well is just chef's kiss.
Yeah.
Really is fantastic. But they make this move because this morning it was announced Christian Gonzalez done for the year. He's going to have surgery on the torn labrum. It's it's nice that we're having another corner, but I don't know how much left he has. So
Yeah, that's a real big loss in Gonzalez, right? So there, we'll unpack a little bit of this, but big loss with Gonzalez. He was one of the guys that was a potential rookie of the year candidate on the defensive side of the ball, and just really, like, you saw what he was able to do. Belichick put him on an island against Tyreek Hill, Garrett Wilson, but gets injured, just not a good situation at all. And then they bring J.C. Jackson back, who did have a lot of success in New England, and they weren't able to pay him because usually Belichick's not going to overpay for a guy, right? And so he goes out to Los Angeles, takes the big deal and everything, but just basically dropped a dud while he was out there. Had legal trouble, was injured, just was an awful, awful corner while he was out there. Before he got injured last year, I think he was giving up like 149.3 quarterback rating. Like, I mean,
yeah,
it was terrible, man. How bad he was, and he was a healthy scratch this past week. So you almost thought like maybe something's going to happen here. But yeah, I feel like New England again just recouping value. Belichick knows how to do that. He's done that for years. He's not going to overpay for a guy, and that's part of being the head coach and the GM, right? Like, in understanding, listen, I'm going to make decisions that are going to benefit our team, and I'm not going to overpay for somebody.
yeah. No, the fact that the Chargers also threw in a seventh round pick, it again, like that. The Patriots love seventh round picks. They it gets them excited. It really does. But that being said, like I said, I think they need somebody. They need somebody for a corner because we have nobody besides Gonzalez at this point. So I'm glad that he's back. I think the change of scenery, being back home, I think is really going to help him. I think it was like what 25 picks in his first 4 seasons with New England. He only has one in 2 seasons with the Chargers. So
Yeah, just
yeah,
and they brought him in to be able to compete in that division, right? Because they bring Russell
yeah,
Wilson in there. They think it's going to be high flying in Denver. Derek Carr's there with Devontae Adams. You had Kansas City as well. Like, they had brought in weapons and stuff. So the Chargers looked at it like, listen, we got to bring someone in to be able to defend these receivers that are coming in here. But he just was not it at all. And Asante Samuel Jr. quickly showed that he was the guy there. So.
yeah.
Just, unfortunate for him. Maybe he's able to get some traction again in New England, going forward. But talk about another guy that is changing teams. We just don't know where he's going to. But Randy Gregory was cut by Denver.
Yeah.
So they're going to pay him out. He, I believe, signed a 5-year deal in the offseason, but He's only guaranteed money through next year, and they owe him $5 million for next year, so they're going to part ways with him. It just seems like they're trying to get younger on that whole team. They've had a lot of issues on that team, especially defense, and he just hasn't been particularly effective this year, right? He had the one sack through 4 games, but it just, I don't know, it just did not feel like he was that big of an impact player on that team. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Denver clearly, they're going with youth. They're trying to get that team's trying to get younger, and they're trying to compete. And Gregory just honestly, he just didn't fit in that system. And it's sad too because they did sign him for big money prior to last season. Like, what was it? Yeah, 5 years, 70 million, and just wasn't the impact guy they were hoping for. And I think too, with him being a free agent, and you and I talked a little bit about this before we started recording. I think he's going to go to a contender. I think this, and I said this, this smells like a Buffalo Bills signing if I've ever seen one. Like, this seems like a dude that they're just going to plug in, could really fit in with the culture in Buffalo, and just really kind of do some things for them.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I that doesn't happen as somebody that roots for the Patriots, but it just smells like a Buffalo signing if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, watch him go to Buffalo and he ends the season with like 15 sacks, right? Like, it just
Yeah,
that would be
great.
a Buffalo thing to, for that to happen. So, and I think at that point it kind of puts the nail in Vance Joseph's coffin, right? Like, I realize Denver's trying to get younger, but at the same time they need help on defense. This is a team that's been very good at defense in the past, and again, we had mentioned that on previous episodes. Like, they've just been awful this year. So, happy trails. Good luck to him, and hopefully he's able to land somewhere where he's going to have a chance to be effective.
Willie, where do you think he's going to sign? If you had to guess, where do you think he's going to go?
Me personally, I could see him going back to Dallas. I just don't know if Dallas needs him. That's the other piece of it. I know Micah Parsons got banged up. He's a little injured, but I don't know if Dallas needs him. I really don't think they do. I think maybe if he were to go back there, it would just be a comfort thing. And
Right.
I don't know. I'm not a big fan of guys leaving, signing big deals, and then going back with like their hat in their hand to the team that wouldn't pay them. That doesn't feel good in any way.
Yeah.
But here's two guys that could potentially be doing that. So uh
I see that. I feel the same way with Buffalo. Like, Buffalo doesn't need him, but just from a depth chart standings, like, that's, you could always use a guy like that, especially with Von Miller coming back. They're just going to need bodies, and he's a guy I think that could make a difference in January and February.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, all right, well, let's get into the two games that we're going to discuss today. We got Kansas City at Minnesota. Kansas City's getting 5 points. The over/under is 53. What are your thoughts on this game? How do you think this is going to shake out?
I think this is going to be exactly what we think it's going to be. I think Kansas City is just going to do what they need to do. They weirdly have been playing some sloppy football. That game against the Jets was sloppy. Like, Mahomes just wasn't him. Like, he was just making some bad decisions that he typically doesn't make, which I felt was kind of alarming, and let the Jets kind of hang around in that game. Um, I think Minnesota, their defense is all right, but I don't see them giving Mahomes nearly as much trouble as the Jets did. So I think Kansas City is going to run away with this game, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I think Kansas City's going to win, but I think it can be closer. And this is the reason is that Minnesota, even if they're down, they have the power on offense to be able to catch up quickly. And that's when you have a guy like Justin Jefferson or Jordan Addison on the team, all it takes is the flick of a wrist, and the game could be tied, right? So it's just,
Yeah.
for me, I think there could be a lot of points in this. And I think what I've been seeing, at least from Kansas City's defense, and I know people have been kind of high on them. They gave up 20 points in week 1, but also week 4 last week. And it didn't seem, I'm still not sold on Zach Wilson that he's that great of a quarterback. Yeah, like, he played most of that game against man coverage when he knows exactly what to expect every single snap. I'm not sure that, like, Kirk Cousins is a better quarterback than Zach Wilson. I just see him being able to put up more points. in this. And just speaking of their defense, right? Like week 2, week 3, they had good showings, 9, 10 points. But my concern is only 10 sacks through 4 weeks. So that's okay, 2 sacks a game. You're just not getting pressure on the quarterback the way you need to. There's a lack of turnovers too. That's really scary. 5 turnovers? Really? Like you're not
Yeah.
going to win football games that way. It's just, it's not going to, eventually it's going to end up catching up with Kansas City. And I just think that number needs to increase, and I think it has it. Both of those numbers have a chance of that increasing in sacks and turnovers if the offense plays better. And I think that kind of leads into the second thing I was going to say is that their offense has just been pitiful, man. It really has not looked good. Not like the Kansas City that we've been blessed with seeing the past 10 years.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny with his defense because Chris Jones has 3.5 sacks and he missed a game.
Yeah.
He's doing all the work for this defense. And like frankly, there's gotta be somebody else to take the pressure off of him. Because like for as good as he is, like he can only get to the quarterback so many times. And like eventually you're starting to see it like teams are doubling him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's making it so that somebody else has to make a play. The problem is nobody is making that play. And that's starting to become a real issue with this team. I think the thing I want to go back to something you said earlier about Kirk Cousins. I know you seem to think that like this game's going to be close, and I keep going back, and I know I keep saying this. It's two things. One, the Vikings this year in close games, it's not their year for that.
Mm-hmm.
Last year they were 11-0 in one score games. This year that they can't seem to catch a break, and also like, and I keep saying this, I don't trust Kirk Cousins when it matters the most. I don't. Like, I think they'll get down big early, and then I think there's a world where I think they lead him back. He leads him back and makes it close, but Mahomes will do just enough in the end because he's Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I mean, again, the thing for me, like on offense that they have, and I just their receivers, like I said, it's just been really, really bad this season. Like I'm looking at some of the statistics that they had. The wide receiver core that they have in Kansas City, 45 receptions, 588 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So just to put this in perspective, Puka Nacua has 39 receptions, right? So 6 receptions less, 501 yards, so 87 yards less, and 1 touchdown this year. Just him.
Yeah.
So when I'm seeing, and okay, so you've got Travis Kelce there, you have Noah Gray as well at tight end. You've got the backs that they utilize, but they need somebody to step up on this receiving core. They went out, they got Kadarius Toney, they let Juju walk, which I think was a good decision, but I think they need to go after somebody. It's not only is that concerning in terms of the receivers, but the reason I say the offense in general is I'm not sure Mahomes and Kelce can carry this team. When I look at some of the issues that they're having, like, and these are even bigger concerns because the receivers, I think, can figure it out. Rashee Rice, I think he'll develop into a better receiver. Maybe Justin Watson can. Sky Moore's not the answer. Kadarius Toney is,
No.
I don't know, like he doesn't seem bought in and focused on what he's doing there. But my biggest concern that they have, even before they get to the receivers, is Donovan Smith and Jawan Taylor. The amount, they're just not playing well, man. Like the penalties are painful to watch.
Yeah. I'm gonna say a thing, and I know this isn't, the Chiefs kind of got lucky on Sunday night. Refs kind of bailed them out on that call at the end that I get the letter of the law of that, but like, man, that's, I don't know, man. This team should be firing on all cylinders, and they're just not. And this is like a weird. They're, for being 3-1, the Chiefs are just this weird team that just isn't playing their best football. It's kind of like the Eagles, to be honest with you. Like the Eagles are 4-0, but they are not playing well. Like they are, they're like, they do this thing where like with the Eagles, like 60-yard throw to Brown or Smith, and then like 3 and out for like 3 straight. And it just feels like Kansas City's kind of the same way. Like it's either big play to Kelsey, Mahomes scrambles for 10,000 years and gets a first down, or there's nothing at all. And I think that's going to come back and bite Kansas City unless they go out and get somebody.
Yeah, I see. I personally, I trust Philly more because they're undefeated, but they're able to figure it out when it matters, right? And they're playing close
Yeah,
games, but they're winning those close games. That's a good thing. I don't feel good about Kansas City. They are one of the worst 3-1 teams that I see right now. And I'm looking another team that I feel I don't know if they're better than is Baltimore. I look at Baltimore; they're not playing particularly well. They're still winning games. They're 3-1.
yeah,
Like I look at that, it just I think they're 3-1. Yeah, I think they're leading that division. Like it just I don't know, for me, like it's just it does not feel good. It doesn't feel good at all. So I don't know. I think they have to make some moves. I'm not sure who they can get though that they're going to bring in at receiver or even on the line. Like they had I heard it today on the radio, but they had an old quote from Tom Moore, who used to coach in Indy for many,
mhm,
many years on the offensive line. Now I believe he's in Tampa Bay. But one of the quotes he used to say is like the team that you have at the end of August, that's the team that you have. Like you've got to have it figured out. You know who you are by August, right? And then it's
yeah,
about executing once you get in the season. You can't make massive changes within the scope of the season. It just doesn't. It's not possible to do that. So I hope they're able to get it figured out, but I just don't see this team making a deep run in the playoffs. I could see them getting bounced early, and if they don't get this figured out, they need to have those tackles and the wide receivers being able to play effectively for Mahomes to get enough time. The defense needs to play better too. Like I just don't think one of the only hopes that I have is that it's Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelsey.
yeah. And we talk about maybe they can go out and get somebody. The problem is like first of all, you don't know who's going to really be available.
Yeah,
Two, they
but
don't really have
who?
the caps. Yeah, I think the Rams will keep him. I do. I think because I think they're banking on Cooper Cup to come back, and I think they're gonna be a weird frisky 7 seed this year. I think that's what that's gonna be. But the Chiefs, like, they don't have the cap space.
Yeah, I
Like
just
you need the cap space to get somebody. They don't. I mean, they have 3.8 million in cap space. Like,
you're not getting a stud. And or dude, there's no offensive tackles sitting at home. Jason Peters was 40 years old when the Seahawks signed him. Like
yeah,
there's no guys that are great tackles that are sitting home on their couches being like, "Oh yeah, I'm just going to wait for the Chiefs to offer me a deal." No, they're not. They're
yeah,
not, man. Those guys have already been scooped up. So I don't know. And I look at like what they have ahead of them. They Broncos, Chargers, Broncos again. So like I think those are three winnable games. But even if they drop this game to Minnesota, which I don't think they will, but if say they drop this game and then they win the next three that they have against Broncos, Chargers, and Broncos again, I mean, I still am not convinced that they're a good team. Like,
yeah. You could tell me they're going to win all 4 of those games leading up to the Dolphins game, and I would believe you. But like,
yeah,
I still don't trust that they're a good team. Like,
yeah.
but because they have Patrick Mahomes and they have Andy Reid as a head coach,
Hmm.
that kind of buys you some that just kind of buys you time. Like, and that at the end of it, that Andy Reid's going to have the best play calls out there, and that Patrick Mahomes, even if he's down 3, good chance he's going to drive it down the field.
Yeah. I don't know. I like what I've seen from Minnesota recently, and I know you're not a big Cousins fan. I am, man. I want to see that guy succeed. I want to see him do well. And that offense is fun to watch when they're playing well. Like there's been some
Yeah,
ugly, ugly interceptions. Not all of them have been his fault, but you know, they released I think they were saying they released a photo of who was it, Cousins and Addison last week with like the Step Brothers photo, and then he doesn't like throw him doesn't throw him a pass at all. Like zero catches for the game, 0 points in fantasy. Like brutal. Like I need to see what they've played like the last few weeks, right? Jefferson getting involved early, Hawkinson, Madison running the ball, which he's running the ball better than he
yeah.
has. But I need to see Addison involved in that too. He can't be putting up blanks if they're going to have a chance to beat the Chiefs. So I,
And they haven't,
yeah,
and the Vikings too haven't figured out incorporate Cam Akers yet either. That's the other thing.
Yeah, that's to be honest, I think he's a non-factor. That's just my opinion.
I agree.
I mean, they didn't really give up much for him. I think they needed a spot to dump him. He had experience with the head coach previously. I maybe you know, I don't see him stealing that job from Madison and their backup McBride. I feel better about him than I do Akers. But Akers can still get it done. I mean, don't an injury can change a lot of things. So, you know, we'll see how it works out this week. I could be wrong. He could split 50% of the snaps with Madison. I think it's going to take him a few weeks to understand the offense and all of that. But what do you have for this game? Who do you have winning it?
I have Kansas City winning this, but I think this is going to be kind of a blowout.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is going to be Kansas City 33, Minnesota 17.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
do.
I can see that part of it and stuff. I have it coming a little bit closer. I got Kansas City winning 34-31. So, you know, we'll see. We'll have to check and see how it ends up. But all right. Well, let's hop into the next game. And I know this may not be popular for some viewers, but we felt like we needed to talk about this team, right? Cincinnati at Arizona. So there's been some big storylines and stuff, but in this particular game, since he's getting 3 points, the over/under is 44.5. What do you see happening? What are the storylines for this? What's your opinion on it?
I mean, I think that this is a make or break game for Cincinnati. Like this, if you look at the schedule, this is a winnable game for them.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, nothing Cincinnati has done this year has been easy. And I think this is going to be more of the same because like, I feel like I've watched enough Cardinals games this season where like they hang around longer than they should in games. They hang around for about like 3 quarters. They even did it with the 49ers. Like the 49ers ultimately like pulled away in the fourth quarter because they had far superior talent. But for almost 3 quarters, they hung around with that team. Like Joshua Dobbs is like making enough plays. James Conner, you know, busting off some big runs here and there, and they're doing like just enough. And I think that's going to be more of the same. I actually think this is the game where Arizona like just puts a complete game together.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you mentioned some good things about Dobbs there, right? Like, and it's kind of crazy when you look at it, right? Like he was a 5th-round pick. The Browns traded him to Arizona for a 5th-round pick in 2024, right?
Yeah.
He's the 20th rated QB right now, 70% completion rate, 4 touchdowns, no picks, 99.4 QBR. Like this guy would be a welcomed quarterback. You think the Giants would want a guy playing like this right now? The Jets, at least those two, right? I look at that. He's not turning the ball over. The guys are rallying around him. He learned the playbook in less than a week, right? Like he's figuring it out. And one thing that you had mentioned that they're hanging around longer than they should, that's our fault, man. That's our fault. That's our perception of what they should have been this year, which was a dumpster fire. We thought that they were going to be tanking before they had even played one snap this year. We were saying this team is tanking to get Caleb Williams. And they've done everything they've had to do to fight in these games. I mean, what are you seeing out of Jonathan Gannon? Are you impressed by this? Like, what's the deal with it?
Yeah, they're 1-3, and they very easily could be 3-1. That's the thing with this team. Like they blow that big lead against the Giants, where that first half they were up huge on the Giants. That Washington game was just kind of weird. Like Washington drives late to like win that game, but like they should be 3-1 instead of 1-3, and it's really a couple plays. They're a couple plays away from that.
Yeah.
And they're prepared. They're well coached, and the thing I really appreciate in what I'm seeing out there is the hustle and the effort with them.
Yeah.
The Cardinals, you can tell, are a team like they're not the most talented, but man, they are hitting guys when they can, and they're playing hard.
Yeah.
They're playing hard, and I think that starts with their head coach.
It's you mean Mr. Pew 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 lasers?
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of Gannon, but because I think he's just kind of corny, but he really is getting these guys to rally around Dobbs They're playing well. They're on offense and defense. You look at what James Conner, you had mentioned him before. He's got more rushing yards than Joe Mixon.
Yeah,
No one was predicting that at the beginning of the year. No one. So it's just interesting to see kind of what they've done. My thing for Arizona, I don't know if they're actually going to bring Kyler back.
it doesn't serve them any purpose to. I was reading the other day that Kyler Murray is still a few weeks away from like coming back,
Mm-hmm.
but like Arizona has no incentive to, none.
If
Like,
he gets injured, they owe like re-injured, they owe him like the majority of his contract. I think that's written into it in that
yeah,
yeah, he's I don't know. It's not I didn't it's not a team friendly contract in that sense. My big thing is I think you ship him. Like I think you try to recoup picks. I would if I were Arizona, I would try to be offloading him to Atlanta maybe. I think he'd be a great fit in Atlanta. I think if I was Atlanta's GM, I'd be saying, maybe we bring him in, right? Like he's going to be better than Ritter there. He's going to be able to throw the ball. You've got Kyle Pitts there. I don't know with Bijan there and Algier. Maybe you bring him in. I think Kyler Murray would have a better fit there.
I I really like the idea of them trading Murray, but I think there's enough tape out there on Murray, and I think there's been enough stories out about him about how he doesn't really prepare and take things seriously. And I think that like once that reputation is out there about you in the NFL, like that is teams are going to stay away from you. Like I know it was a big thing when he signed his contract that he had to like watch a certain amount of film each week, and you're like, that's a, and I know that like they tried denying that and like, but enough people reported that story. Like that's I like come on, man. Like that just doesn't it's not a good look for you.
Yeah,
It's not.
it's not what people want in the locker room either, right? They want a
Yeah,
quarterback that's going to be a leader, and maybe he can change that perception. I don't want to count
yeah,
him out. Maybe there's an opportunity for him to do that. I just don't know if it's going to be in Arizona.
yeah.
Not with the
Well,
way Dobbs is playing. If Dobbs was getting killed every game, I'd say that, but he's not turning the ball over. He's rallying the
yeah,
guys around him. They're playing, the way they put a spanking on Dallas was it was world class, man. It really
yeah,
was. So,
yeah.
you know,
It, if we're gonna talk about leaders though, like Joe Burrow, the other side of this is Joe Burrow, man. This isn't getting fun to watch. It's not. Like
yeah, this
something's
isn't
really up with him, and it's not good.
we didn't sign up for this year, man. Like I
No,
really I'm a huge Joe Burrow fan, and it tears at my heart, man, to watch him not look like the Burrow we were used to seeing. And I'm not talking about the one that gets hit all over the pocket and sacked 7, 8 times a game. I mean, like the guy that could throw the ball, throw 3, 4 touchdowns a game and turn this offense into a high flying, fun to watch, program. Like it just, what they're
yeah,
doing. My question is, how many more weeks of this, man? How many more weeks that we got to watch this? Because in my mind, they could have sat him down for the first 4 weeks and they could have started out 0-4. Maybe they win a game out of that, maybe not. Say they go 0-4. I'd still have
yeah.
confidence when he comes back and he's healthy to lead this team to the playoffs. And all they've got to do is make the playoffs with him healthy, and I give them a chance. It doesn't matter if he's going to play somewhere else. He doesn't
Yeah.
care. He's got ice in his veins, man. But when he's hurt, he's just not the same guy.
The thing is like after this week with Arizona, like their schedule gets nasty. It's Seattle, bye week, at San Francisco, and then Buffalo, and then Houston. Like
Yeah.
their schedule is not easy this year. Like, and if Burrow's hurt, like maybe there's a world where you shut them down. You're right. Like it's not like they don't have like their own draft pick this year. Like maybe like see if you can get like a top 10 pick and like maybe get a really good offensive lineman or maybe get a really good D lineman. Like
Maybe, right? Like
Jesus,
I don't know.
like
For me, now Higgins has his ribs banged up. Like it just does not look good for this team right now. They're starting to get injured. Orlando Brown's name is trending all over Twitter. Like they're not happy with this guy. And so I don't know, man. Like with Burrow especially, teams aren't afraid of him running. Like you used to see in past years him just taking off if he reads the defense, a play's not there, he'd scramble for 13, 14 yards, pick up that first down and slide. Well, he was working on
Yeah.
sliding, but yeah, he'd slide and get that first down. He can't do that right now. They know they can just drop back in zone and rush their four guys and they're eventually going to get to him. And that's not fun. And I mean now, I mean you and I had talked about it, but Jamar Chase comes out after the game and makes some comments. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
I it's funny because they haven't paid him yet, and like this to me feels like the start of something bigger, especially if they keep losing. Like I think this starts like I think what he did, like and I get it for the record. I'm pro Jamar Chase here. I get the frustration. Like this was supposed to be a team that was supposed to had Super Bowl aspirations. After the last 2 years of playing in at least the AFC title game or the Super Bowl, they had big aspirations this year, and it's just not happening. And like he's just not like I mean he had 7 catches for 73 yards against Tennessee, but like that wasn't like he wasn't a factor. Like those are like the most forgettable 7 catches I've ever seen. Like I really think this is the start of something much worse. And two, because like I said, with their schedule, I think they're going to keep losing, and it's not going to be pretty. It's
Yeah.
not.
See, my thing
Which
of it,
which makes me sad because Burrow and Chase are when they are on together, boy, it is like magic.
Mhm. All right, I'm going to throw a few things at you because my thing of it, and I've seen this happening the last couple of weeks with reporters, just being like too Brody in the room. It's a privilege to be in that room and be able to interview them and stuff. And I realize they got a job to do, but I feel like we're seeing some poor reporting going on, poor questions being asked that, these are adults that have these jobs, not 5-year-olds, right?
Yeah,
You don't need to ask the coach, okay, is that bad? Well, what do you expect? Like I've seen it now with Matt LaFleur. I've seen it with Sean Payton. Sean Payton unnecessarily got upset, but rightfully so. They got their butts kicked. I've seen it with Belichick now. Like they asked about why he benched Mac Jones. He gave them an answer. They weren't happy. They tried another cryptic way of asking it. He gave them the heat. I saw it with Justin Fields where they kind of breadcrumbed him into making that statement that almost blaming the coaches, and he had to come out and then talk to them again and say like, no, I accept full responsibility for stuff. That wasn't what I was trying to say. And now I'm seeing this as I go through now. And so the headline is obviously I'm always effing open. Excuse my profanity, right? So as I look through this, you see that on the headline of the article, you're like, oh man, like there's definitely something wrong here. He's a jerk. But really, what he said before that was it was his first time seeing Joe Burrow go through an injury like this. He's just going through
yeah,
a little bit of adversity. He's going to be back in no time soon, and he's going to keep fighting. And then they asked him if he was having difficulty getting open this season, or if he has less time to get open this season. And he
yeah,
immediately shot that down by saying that. And now everyone's up in arms that like this guy's a jerk, he's a bad teammate, all of this stuff. Listen, I've watched film on Jamar Chase for the last 5 years. This dude has been open for the past 5 years. That's why
yeah,
he got drafted with a first round pick. That's why he was great at LSU. And part of the reason too, Jefferson was on the other side, right? So like,
yeah. And Joe Burrow's throwing it to
yeah,
him.
and Joe Burrow's throwing him the ball, man. Like you're seeing this. So I understand he's frustrated. I get that piece of it. I just think I will come from it from a different angle in respective journalism that you have to ask better questions. And don't
Sure.
put the title of the article as he says this. It makes him look bad. He's not trying
Yeah,
to bag it. Joe Burrow's his dude. He's his
yeah.
dude. He's not trying to make him look bad. So I don't know. For me, like, where do they go from here? Where do
I
you see them going from here?
watching the video after because I I like a lot of people at first, I just saw the headline. I was like, oh, that's not good. But like
Yeah.
I watched the video after, and like I will agree with you. I think that the way it was questioned to him was pretty shitty. Like there really was only one response he could have had, and it was
Mhm.
the response he gave. Um, but you can also tell, a, motorcycles are outside. Two, that you can tell that he's just like, this has been a frustrating season for him, and like I think that you like while I don't think that he's mad at Joe Burrow, I think he's frustrated with the season and the way it's going. And like, frankly, I don't blame him. It's like I said, this team had aspirations to contend this year, and it looks like they're not going to not only not contend, but I think they're going to just outright miss the playoffs.
Well,
Like,
and think back to last year too, right? Like he gets hurt, he takes time off. Well, I think he had the hip injury, right? He missed a couple
yeah,
weeks, nursed it, came back, and then they go into the playoffs. And the way the season ended with them in the AFC Championship game, so he knows how close they were to that. They come into this season, new left tackle for Burrow. He's getting the protection he needs now, supposedly, right? Like coming into the season,
yeah,
into training camp, big high aspirations, all of that. He's healthy, Burrow's healthy, then Burrow gets hurt. It's just like
yeah.
one thing after another. Now T Higgins is hurt. They're not feeling it the way they were before. And I don't blame them for being frustrated, man. I really don't.
Yeah. This team has like a year from hell team written. This seems like the team this year where it's like
Yeah.
everything that could possibly go wrong is going to go wrong for this team this year.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah. Well, how do you have this game ending up?
I actually think Arizona's going to win this game, 2017. I really think like this is going to be rock bottom for them. I think this is going to be rock bottom for the Bengals, and I think this is where you see Burrow just not play well again. I think everybody's going to get really frustrated, and I think then Cincinnati's really going to start thinking about, hey, maybe we just kind of let Burrow like rehab this injury, and we just kind of punt on this season.
Well, here's an interesting thought. If they start out, say he starts the game, he throws two picks. Do they sit him down?
No, they would never bench Joe Burrow. I don't. I think they're going to let it, barring an injury. They're going to let him see this game through
Okay.
because Joe Burrow's not a guy you bench.
Mhm.
You don't, because if you bench him, boy, that's tough coming back
It's
from.
not, I don't see it as a benching. I just see it as them like sitting him down to try. And again, I would never think about benching Joe Burrow. That's not, dude, he threw four picks
No,
in the opening game last year. They didn't bench it. Like, I'm not saying that piece of it. I'm just wondering if like he comes out, he doesn't look like himself, throws a pick or two. They're not playing well. They're down 3 touchdowns. Do you sit him at that point and just say, listen, we're resting you? We are resting you for
no,
the next couple of weeks. Mhm.
no, because I think you got to let him see if he can like kind of pull himself out of this.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I think that again, barring some injury, I think he finishes this game whether he throws 4 touchdowns or 4 picks.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, I have Cincinnati winning this 28-24. We'll see what ends up happening. Did you say your score? What do you have for a score?
I have Arizona winning this game 20-17.
2017. Okay, so it's going to be tight, but you have
Yeah,
Arizona winning that. Okay. All right.
well, especially too if Higgins doesn't play, like that means you can afford to double cover Chase, and then it's just Boyd really
Mhm.
that's left open, and you're
Yeah,
like, if you're gonna let him beat you, like he's a good receiver, but I don't know how that's gonna really move the needle. So
exactly. Well, we'll see what happens this weekend when they play and stuff. But let's hop in. I just want to cover a little bit of fantasy football before we let the folks go
yeah, yeah,
here. There's some big name starters out this week. We got the first big bye week coming through. We got Cleveland, the Chargers, Seattle, and Tampa Bay. So some really big names out there that are going to be on bye weeks. Deshaun Watson, Jerome Ford, Amari Cooper. They're going to be sitting this week. No game for them. Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler. They're going to be sitting as well. I'm sorry, Al. I know Eckler was your guy, but
Yeah, he's dead to me. He's
Yeah.
dead to me.
Yeah. So in Seattle, you got Geno Smith, Kenneth Walker Jr., or Kenneth Walker the third, I guess. DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. They're going to be sitting down. And then in Tampa Bay, Rashad White, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin. So let's go through the few guys here that I think you might be able to pick up and find on your waiver wire that might help you out a little bit. The first could be Jameson Williams. You know, he's not stellar, but he's capable. He had the torn ACL last year. Now he's back from the suspension. Detroit just needs a guy that can kind of stretch the field, and he's the one that can do it. You know, you've got Amon-Ra, Sam Laporta that can kind of move the chains underneath, but Jameson Williams is that guy that can take the top off the defense. Do you think he's going to be able to do that in Detroit?
Yeah, I think Detroit needs all the help they can offensively. They need as many weapons as they can at this point, because I think we've seen enough with Detroit that defensively they can get the job done.
Mm-hmm.
I think offensively sometimes I'm still a little worried about them, that they don't have enough firepower.
Their guard's still a little banged up, but I mean David Montgomery's looking good. But this team really needs a guy that can take the top off the defense. And I really think from what the limited bit that we saw of Jameson Williams last year, it seems like he's that dude.
Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah, I think too with Detroit, like what you saw against Green Bay that first half on that Thursday night game, like that's like best case scenario, but that I don't know if they're capable of that all the time. So I think they're going to need every bit they can from Jameson Williams, every bit.
Okay, well, definitely be on the lookout for him on the waiver wire. A few other guys to go through here. Chuba Hubbard, he had the same amount of touches as Miles Sanders. He'd be a decent pickup in leagues. You've got Jaleel McLaughlin, almost butchered that, from Denver, with Javonte Williams. There we go. There's no Javonte Williams there. Javonte Williams is likely going to be out Sunday. So I expect McLaughlin, he's going to outsnap and probably outproduce Samaje Perine. So I definitely see that happen. Man, that must be the most complicated names for running backs in the entire league. Denver, you win that. So with McLaughlin, Williams, and Perine, that's just a very difficult trio to be able to pronounce all their names. So moving on, you've got Trey Palmer. Mike Evans is going to be questionable with a hamstring injury. He was nursing that. So you could see Trey Palmer step up besides Chris Godwin. Beside him, I think that could be he could have a game. We'll have to see. I mean, Baker Mayfield, he's been throwing the ball. So,
I think the Bucs are on a bye, so I don't think he's going to play this week.
Oh my God, did I just mention that?
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay.
I think so, my man.
Oh Jesus. Yeah. Jeez, we are winning this week.
Pick up Trey Palmer if you want to lose your fantasy.
Yes. Please, in the Guillotine League, do that. Yeah. So, Trey Palmer, thank you for that, Al. Yeah, Trey Palmer, definitely a guy to look at in future weeks if Mike Evans is still going to be hampered with that hamstring. So, don't hold it against me, but I will accept responsibility for it. So, Michael Wilson, another guy, if he's still available, there's some leagues that he's still available in. He's been somewhat productive this year for Arizona. 2 touchdowns on the season, 7 targets last week against San Francisco. So things could be heating up a little bit for him. Definitely keep an eye out for him on the waiver wire as well. But that's all I got right now. Any other thing I messed up, Al? Let me know.
No, you're good.
I cannot wait to see the comments on that. I hope someone butchers me for it. So thank you so much. But listen, we'll wrap up here. Thank you again, everyone, for the support. We really appreciate it. Like Al mentioned earlier, we're going to be back again on Friday, bringing you the best NFL and MLB content to start your weekend and accurate fantasy information. So if you like it, if you love it, drop a comment. If you don't, let us know as well. Smash that subscribe button, like the video, and if you do have a comment to send us, either comment on the video or send us an email at thepulsewa@gmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter or X at Willie Creeman FF. So other than that, I just want to say thank you so much, Al. I appreciate it. If we can't laugh and have fun, what's the point in it?
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. It's always a pleasure making these with you, man. It's the highlight of my week for sure.
Yeah, and last thing I want to go out on, I know we had mentioned it before, finally caught the guy after 25 years that killed Tupac. Finally caught him. So
It's wild it took this long.
yeah, like what was it, 96? It was at the Tyson fight, right? Right after the
Yeah.
Tyson
Yep.
fight. It just, man, really,
Yep.
really happy to see that go down. Justice was served. So
Yeah.
thank you very much, Las Vegas PD. But listen, I love you, Al. Great to have another one with you, man. And I'll see you again on Thursday.
All right, Willie. I love you, man. Hey, stay safe. Be careful. Have a good one, my man. I
Take
love you.
care. Love you too, bro. Peace.